Hello guys, welcome to Dr. Science. So today we are going to talk about lymphoid organs. So let's start. So here are the lymphoid organs. Lymphoid organs are divided into two types. One is primary or central lymphoid organs, and the second one is secondary or peripheral lymphoid organs. Primary lymphoid organs are also called as generative lymphoid organs. So in this primary or central lymphoid organs, what are the organs under this? The first one is bone marrow, and the second one is the thymus. So what happens in this primary or central lymphoid organs? So in this primary lymphoid organs, the lymphocytes are like T cells, T lymphocytes or B lymphocytes. They mature, okay? They mature in these organs, so they are called as primary lymphoid organs. So in bone marrow, B cells will mature, and in the thymus T cells will mature. So that was about primary lymphoid organs, and next we will talk about secondary lymphoid organs. So what are the organs which will come under secondary lymphoid organs? So the first one is lymph nodes, and the second one is there are total of 3 secondary lymphoid organs: mucosal associated lymphoid tissue, or you can simply call as MALT, and the third one is cutaneous associated lymphoid tissue, okay, and the fourth one is the spleen. So secondary lymphoid organs include lymph nodes, MALT, cutaneous associated lymphoid tissue, and the fourth one is spleen. So what happens in these organs? So suppose here is the lymphoid tissue we are talking about. This is the lymph node. So in this secondary lymphoid organs, it is the place where lot of dendritic cells are there. So these are the dendritic cells, and what these dendritic cells will do, they are the antigen presenting cells. So normally the T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes, suppose here are the T lymphocytes and here are the B lymphocytes, they reside in these lymph nodes, okay. So once the dendritic cells will present the antigen to the lymph nodes, they will convert into effector cells, okay. So that was the function of these secondary lymphoid organs. So we will talk about mucosal associated lymphoid tissue. Where is this one found? This is found beneath the skin. Suppose this is the epithelium of the skin, and there are microbes present outside the skin. Once this skin is broken, the microbes enters the blood. So beneath this epithelium there is tissue. So suppose here is the tissue. This is called as the cutaneous. Since it is the skin, it is called as cutaneous associated lymphoid tissue, okay. So what is this cutaneous associated lymphoid tissue? In this cutaneous associated lymphoid tissue, there are lot of cells. These cells are memory cells, okay. Memory cells have very heightened response to the antigens or bacteria. These are memory cells. So whenever you hear the word mucosal assisted lymphoid tissue or cutaneous assisted lymphoid tissue, they have these memory cells which have heightened response. Okay, next we will talk about MALT, mucosal assisted lymphoid tissue. What is this MALT? I think you know the intestines. So here are the intestines, and here is the epithelium of the intestine. Below this epithelium of the intestine, there are small patches. Here are the patches. These patches are called as Peyer's patches of the intestine. So these are also a kind of mucosal associated lymphoid tissue. It means they contain lot of memory cells. Okay. So another thing is there are tonsils. There are pharyngeal tonsils. They are also a kind of mucosal associated lymphoid tissue. So that was about lymphoid organs. So we will take a look at what is happening in the lymph nodes. Suppose this is the epithelia of the skin, and the epithelia of the skin is broken. So once it is broken, the microbes outside will enter inside this, and they will enter the blood vessels. Suppose these are the blood vessels, the microbes are entering the blood vessels. Eventually the blood gets filtered into the lymph vessels. So these are the lymph vessels, and these lymph vessels, these are the lymph vessels, and these lymph vessels eventually drain into nodular structures. These nodular kidney shaped structures, these nodular kidney shaped structures are called as the lymph nodes. So what happens in these lymph nodes? So suppose when these microbes enter these blood vessels, here are the microbes that are entering the blood vessels. They are taken up by the cells called antigen presenting cells, and these antigen presenting cells, so here are the antigen presenting cells which will take a bite of the microbes, and these antigen presenting cells will go through these lymph vessels, and from the lymph vessels they eventually go to the lymph node. So here are the antigen presenting cells with the microbes or the antigen, and what they will do here, they will activate the T or B lymphocytes. So that is the function of these lymph nodes. Lymph nodes contain a lot of T or B lymphocytes. So we will take a look at what is happening in the lymph node. So these are the lymph nodes, and peripherally there are small follicles, and these follicles, these are called as the peripheral. This is the peripheral zone, or you can call it as cortex, outer cortex, and in this cortex you will find a lot of B cells. Okay, in the cortex, and in the cortex you find these follicular cells. These are the follicles. Okay. So these follicle contains B cells which are present peripherally or in the cortex. Aside from that, if these B cells are activated by antigen presenting cells. So antigen presenting cells, they take a bite of the microbe, and once they take the bite of the microbe, they will go to the B cells, and B cells are activated, right? And what happens? B cells are activated, they convert into plasma cells, and plasma cells will produce antibodies. So that was about the follicles. Not only that, so here is the follicle, right? I have taken a part of the peripheral cortex. So here is the follicles. Once they are activated, they will form this small central area. This central area is called as germinal center. Okay, germinal center is nothing but the follicles where B cells are present are activated. B cells activated region in the follicles is called as germinal center. Next we will talk about the T lymphocytes. So B's, suppose here is a lymph node, here are the follicles. In follicles you will find B cells, and B cells, if activated, they produce germinal centers, right? Activated B cells are nothing but they form a center called as germinal center. So the B cells are present in the cortex, whereas the T cells are present, this is the paracortex. In paracortex you will find T cells, and in the medulla, suppose this is the medulla, in the medulla you find mainly plasma cells. Okay, so that was about the secondary lymphoid organs. Next we will see what is meant by lymphocyte circulation. So as you know, lymphocytes which are inexperienced, okay, wait a minute. So the lymphocytes which are inexperienced, they have to gain experience. For this, what they will do, they will go to the lymph node, right? Lymphocytes, these are the lymphocytes which are inexperienced, they go to the lymph node, and from the lymph node, once the antigen presenting cell will come, they will present these lymphocytes the antigen, and from the lymph node they go to the tissue. So this entire process is called as lymphocyte recirculation. It means antigen presenting cells should take the antigen from the tissues, and they should run to the lymph node, and from lymph node the T lymphocytes which are inexperienced should convert into experienced T lymphocytes, and they should go to the tissue. This process is called as lymphocyte circulation. Thank you.